Accidents are unpredictable, but your responses shouldn't be. Most people do not lose their cases in the court. They lose it just after a few minutes when they meet an accident. I'm outside the office of attorney Omar Khawaja, and today we'll be breaking down what you should be doing after an accident. Today we have the opportunity to speak with attorney Omar Khawaja, the founder of the law offices of Omar Khawaja, serving clients across Texas. He is a former prosecutor with an experience over a decade and is now focused on injury cases of cars and trucks and catastrophic injuries. Welcome attorney Omar Khawaja to Funasia Network. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. My pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is all ours, sir. I'm going to start with a very simple question first. What made you shift from being a prosecutor to an injury attorney?
So I started my career as a prosecutor defending the rights of victims of crime in Texas. And I was a very serious and aggressive prosecutor, and I took my job very seriously. And I found that I got a lot of satisfaction getting victims of crime justice in Texas courts. So when I decided to go into the private sector, I had an opportunity to become a trial lawyer, but you're not allowed to prosecute criminal cases as a private attorney. What you can do is prosecute on behalf of victims of negligence. So people who have been injured through no fault of their own, I found that I got the same satisfaction in representing them, getting them justice, as I did people who had been victims of crime.
Okay. I want to know that do people really need an attorney for every accident, or is it just limited to the serious ones?
You know, the way I describe it is if you are injured in an accident, and injury to some people means going to the hospital, but injury under the law means pain. If you're having pain, because you don't know how long that pain is going to last. Sometimes your pain can last a few days. Sometimes it can last a few weeks, and sometimes it could last a lifetime, depending on the level of injury. So if you're having pain, to me, that's a serious accident, and it's best to contact an attorney, because if you're going to miss work, if you're going to need medical treatment, the attorney is going to be the person who helps you get that paid for and make sure the other side is held responsible for those damages.
So, whenever someone faces an accident or meets an accident, बहुत लोगों को ये पता होता नहीं है कि exactly accident के बाद what do they need to do? Could you enlighten us? What are the exact steps that they need to do after they meet an accident?
Sure. Basically, accident के बाद क्या करना चाहिए?
Yeah, right.
So after an accident, the most important thing you can do is make sure that you're in a safe location. There's typically traffic, there's potential other danger that could be occurring on the road or freeway. And so the way to do that is you immediately call the police, call 911, and once you're in a safe location, then you can start the process of exchanging information with the other side. Obviously, if you're injured, you need to call medical services, emergency medical services, and then they can come and treat you. But if you're able to move around and you're able to speak with someone, then you want to exchange information. You want to get their insurance, you want to get as many pictures as you can of their car, of your car. Again, as long as you're doing it safely, that's important to do.
Right. ये रही कि exactly क्या करना चाहिए. I want to know कि क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, or generally what mistakes do people make after they meet an accident?
Accident के बाद क्या नहीं करना चाहिए? तो सबसे important बात है कि insurance company को अकेला नहीं call करना चाहिए. You should call the insurance company after you have contacted an attorney, and in fact the attorney should be the one filing the claim for you. If you take that step by yourself, you're at risk of potentially not getting paid for your vehicle or your medical injuries.
Okay. Have you seen a case where a small mistake can cost a person thousands of dollars they have to pay from their side, doing one mistake? Can you give an instance about it?
Certainly. One of the easiest examples is based on what we just said. Someone gets hurt after an accident. They call maybe immediately because they're worried about their car. So they call the other side, they make a claim, and the insurance adjuster for the at-fault party says, "Are you injured?" And they say, "Well, no, I'm not. I feel fine."
Okay.
Because they don't know that how serious their injuries are, or maybe the pain hasn't started yet. You know, a lot of times your pain starts later after an accident, could be hours later or the next day. So when you've made that statement, you've now told the insurance company you're not injured, and then when you try to tell them you are, they say that you're lying, or they say that they're not going to be able to help you.
Right. I want to put a light on this thing, that how do these insurance companies try to reduce the payouts? Can you throw some light on it?
Sure. Insurance companies try to say that you're not injured, for example.
Okay.
They try to say that your medical bills that you've accumulated are not fair or medically reasonable. And they say that they're not going to pay them. They make you try to go and negotiate them on your own. They tell you they're going to pay them, and then they don't pay them.
Right.
So there's many ways for the insurance company to devalue your case. They tell you that they're working on something and that you should not go to treatment or not go see a doctor until they're ready to give you a check or make a payment to you. You know, so now you've devalued your case by not seeking medical treatment quickly enough. So there's many ways the insurance company can do that, and that's why it's best to not talk to the insurance company on your own.
Right. I'm curious to know that if after an accident, even if a party is partially at fault, can they still win that case in Texas?
Yeah, Texas law has a what's called comparative fault law. And what that means is that even if you have some contributing factors, you know, agar aapne thodi si galti ki accident mein,
Right.
then you can still have a recovery as long as it doesn't exceed a certain amount, as long as it's not in the law what we call over greater than 51%. And that even changes if there's multiple vehicles involved. So in Texas, the general idea is that even if you made some sort of simple mistake or some mistake, you can still make a recovery based upon the overall accident and your injuries.
Attorney, I want to know, how does an evidence, koi bhi evidence ho, how can it break or make a case?
Yes, this happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are, for example, cameras in the public. There are vehicles with dash cams on them throughout the city at any given time. And what we do at the law offices of Omar Khawaja is we make sure we have our investigators seek out all the witnesses that we can, all the potential independent evidence that we can find, whether it's a camera in a vehicle that a witness had, or it's a camera on a home or a business, or even on an intersection. So we've been able to turn the liability on cases where someone was saying, "Oh, I had the green light," but the camera showed otherwise.
Right. Okay. Then how do they prove it? I mean, if an evidence brings out something else and they're saying, what are the next steps to do they take?
Right. So what we do then is we make sure that the law enforcement that did the crash report know, or the insurance company of the at-fault party know, that we have evidence that we will use in court if we have to, that shows that your client was at fault. So therefore, you should accept liability and pay for our damages.
Do clients pay anything upfront, or how does the fee structure work for you for the law offices of Omar Khawaja?
So the way our firm works is that if there's no fee if we don't win. Okay, so that means if we're not able to get you a recovery, you don't pay us anything.
Okay.
You don't pay us when you call us. You don't pay us when you hire us. You only pay if we're able to get money from the at-fault party for your benefit.
Talking about the law offices of Omar Khawaja, मैं ये जानना चाहूँगी, और हमारे listeners भी और audience भी जानना चाहिए ये कि what is the biggest amount of settlement that the law offices of Omar Khawaja has handled to date?
Yeah, so over the years, we've been very fortunate to be able to get great results for our clients. Some cases settle for, I'd say smaller amounts of money, and then some cases where there have been very serious injuries or deaths. Sometimes settle for millions of dollars, right? It just sort of depends on your injury or your loss, and it depends on how much coverage or insurance the other side has. Have you been hit by a large company with a lot of resources, a wealthy individual with a lot of insurance, or have you been hit by someone who doesn't have a lot of insurance and they have the minimum amount that Texas requires under the law? So there's so many factors that can go into this, but for us, we've been able to do well because we have the experience and resources to make sure that our clients get the best outcomes.
Attorney, what is the biggest legal myth that clients, misunderstand and often misinterpret it? How do you want to explain that? Any common legal myth that people have in mind?
Well, one of them that you mentioned already is that people think that they are capable of handling the case on their own.
Okay.
They think that they're capable of explaining what happened in terms of the accident itself or their injuries and their medical bills, and why should I go hire an attorney and waste time with an attorney when I can do all of this myself? So the myth there is that the individual has the same legal knowledge that an attorney would have that is specialized in this type of law. And that always results in the individual not getting the outcome that they deserve that's fair. So unfortunately, we get calls after people have tried to sometimes even file a lawsuit on their own.
Okay.
And that is not the type of case that any attorney wants to handle, because it's just like if someone asked you to make some great food for them, but they tried to do it by themselves first and said, can you fix this for me? Right? So we don't want to do that. We want to be able to handle the case from the very beginning.
It becomes more messier in
exactly.
that case. Let me focus on the South Asian community in Texas right now. बहुत बार ऐसा देखा जाता है कि बहुत South Asians जो यहाँ पे रह रहे हैं अभी are on non-immigrant visas, जैसे कि H1B हो, F1 हो, और उनके driving license are on processing. Similarly, their visas are also on an extension, are on ongoing an immigration procedure. During that time, if they get hit or they meet an accident, तब उनके immigration procedure में वो कुछ affect होता है, या how can they handle it? What are their legal rights in that case?
Excellent question. So हमारे cases, अक्सर ऐसे आते हैं कि student visa में हो या visitor visa में हो. You don't have to be a citizen of this country to have the same protections that you do under the law when it comes to auto accident, injury, and wrongful death. Unfortunately, people get killed and injured all the time on our roads. And some of those people are students, some of those people are visitors or here on work visas, and it has no impact whatsoever on your immigration status if you pursue your rights under the law. So that's a myth. That's a legal myth that if I go and file a claim, that somehow some immigration officer is going to say, why did you sue this company? You're not a citizen and you're not going to get your rights. That's absolutely not the case. Even people who have no status, they're here not under any visa status whatsoever, have the same protections that you do under the law. They're able to seek the same sorts of damages that any US citizen would be able to get if they were killed or injured.
Okay. Also, it is one of the case studies that I know from one of my friends that two people who are South Asians, they are very comfortable with each other, and after an accident, they try to settle things out between them. वो अपने में ही बात कर लेते हैं और बोलते हैं कि let's not involve any legalities into it, or let's not involve any insurance companies. They exchange numbers to sort it out between themselves, but later on we find, or it has been found, that one of them has ghosted the other. So in that case, how would the law offices of Omar Khawaja will be helping them?
Sure. So those are very unfortunate circumstances. When someone tells you something on the scene of an accident that, listen, it's my fault, I've done something wrong, let me make it right, but let's not call the police, let's not involve insurance. So if I had $1 for every situation that someone called me and said, this is what happened, and then later on they didn't answer my phone, or they lied and stated that it was my fault, right? I would be rich just on that alone, because that happens every single day. And unfortunately, the first people to do that to you sometimes are your own people, right? तो ये अक्सर होते हैं ये circumstances जहाँ पे लोग basically झूठ बोलते हैं, धोखा देते हैं accident scene पे और कहते हैं कि हम ये सारा आपके लिए संभाल देंगे, आप फिक्र ना करें. In those circumstances, the first thing I would tell people is accident के बाद आपको सबसे पहले police को call करना चाहिए. Even if the person says, no, I don't need you to do that, we don't need the police, we can just exchange information. Police को call करने से document होता सब कुछ. What happened at the time. So nobody can say later that this didn't happen the way it did. If that's not an option, तो कम से कम बंदा को record करो, right? उनको record करो अपने phone पे they shouldn't be offended by it because they understand it's their fault. तो उनको बस थोड़ा सा बताओ कि मैंने आपसे रिकॉर्ड करना है कि ये आपकी गलती थी, right? That's the number 2 thing you can do. Then definitely I would say call the law office, because what we're going to do is make sure that we help you gather the evidence that you need, right, in order to be able to prove that it wasn't your fault. And that's the main way, is while you're at the scene, to prevent the situation from happening. Now, if it has already happened and they've already lied, right, then all we can do is go back and try to see कि कोई independent information हमको मिल सकती है, you know, a camera, hair, a witness that maybe you didn't see or someone didn't see. Very difficult to do, and it's very unfortunate that we most likely would not be able to help in that situation, but we will always try.
I have a friend of mine who recently had an accident, and the accident unfortunately wasn't her fault. It was the other party. Someone hit the car, and when she called upon the police said that the accident happened in a private property and they cannot help. What are the legal rights for my friend then?
Right. So that situation does happen. It's not clear, right, whether the police have to, under the law, do a report in that circumstance. Sometimes they do if there's an injury and there's a lot of property damage, right? But sometimes they don't. And in that circumstance, you're going to have to do the investigation on the scene, as I've advised previously. Take all of the insurance information, exchange it, make sure that you see if there's any witnesses that observed what happened, if there's cameras. If it's in a private parking lot, then hopefully there's a business camera that showed what happened. If the individual that caused the accident admits that it's their fault, document it some way, whether it's a recording or a video, right? Just say, hey, look, you promised you're going to fix my car. You know, here's the insurance information, or file the claim right there if you have to, right? If it's just property damage.
Majorly, the South Asian community is not comfortable with attorneys who primarily speak in English. They want to, they get comfortable with attorneys who speak the languages of their own, be it Hindi, Tamil or Telugu. So in that case, what are the provisions does the law offices of Omar Khawaja provide?
So we have a very diverse staff that are able to speak these different languages, including Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Pashto, Farsi, Arabic. All of these languages are resources that we have at the law firm where we can translate and speak to people in their own language and make them comfortable. And that's very important to us.
To consolidate, what advice would you give specifically the South Asian communities in Texas residing here about their legal rights and awareness?
So I think the most important thing you can do is have a basic understanding of what your rights are. Don't just assume because someone has told you something, on the street or on a chat group or, even on the internet, that you're under threat, that you don't have rights, that it's true, right? As we talked about earlier, you have rights to pursue a case, whether it's an accident, injury, death case, if you were not a citizen, right? So you need to educate yourself on the rights. We're here to do that for you. We're here to help in terms of legal training or legal classes that we can do for the community. But at the very minimum, understand that you do have rights, no matter what your visa status is, no matter what your citizenship status is.
Thank you, Attorney Omar Khawaja, for the wonderful insights that you shared with us. I'm sure it's going to help a number of people watching us right now. We'll be talking to you later. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.